Hello, welcome to Oxford History Today. I'm your host, Ron Brock, and this program is going to be very interesting. We've got a gentleman coming to speak with us who has put out a little book on the railroads in Oxford. And as we talked on many of our shows before, the importance of the railroads going through Oxford. A lot of the small towns and villages around here kind of collapsed because they didn't have rail service. But Oxford did, and that really helped us out in the very, very beginning when this was pretty much an agricultural community, because the farmers could bring their produce into town. It could be put on a railroad and shipped anywhere in the country. So with no further ado, I would like to welcome Dave to our program, and we'll be speaking with him. Hi, Dave. Welcome to the show.
Ron, pleasure to be here.
This is Dave Kovl. He's a gentleman I was talking about that had written a book that we have for sale here in the library on the railroads that came through Oxford. And so at this time, I'm going to turn this over to Dave, and he can tell us a little bit about the history of the railroads.
Well, Oxford was unique in that for such a small town, a rural community, it had a tremendous amount of railroad activity. Mm-hmm. They had two steam roads, as they were called then, plus the interurbans, plus the gravel companies operated their own within the gravel pits.
Right.
And today, there's not a trace of it remaining, which I think is a real shame.
It's true.
So you had the two roads were first off, they were the Detroit and Bay City, which later became the Michigan Central, which later became the New York Central.
New York Central.
And finally Penn Central, which tore the tracks out.
Right.
Then you had the Pontiac, Oxford, and Northern, which later became the Grand Trunk, and they call that the Polly-Ann. Mm-hmm. And today that is now a hiking trail called the Polly-Ann Trail. And I think people in the area would be very well acquainted with that.
Oh, yeah.
And in addition, it wasn't just the trains coming through, there was also the big gravel pits. Oxford had the largest open gravel pit in the world. It said before 1950 that 90% of roads east of the Mississippi had Oxford gravel in them. Grand Trunk maintained a huge yard out here, and they ran what they called a gravel extra, which sometimes was a 16-hour shift.
Wow.
They had to weigh each car as it left the gravel pit. And then they had they ran passenger trains for quite a while. Mm-hmm. Finally ending up about 1960 or so, they ran a mixed train to Caseville. Now that's freight and a passenger. We call it a combine car, the baggage and passenger car. And my understanding is if you were in a hurry to get to Caseville, that's not the train you wanted to be on, because it did all switching all up through the thumb, through Imlay City, and up to Caseville. And then you had the interurbans, which were extended streetcar lines.
Right.
They built out of Detroit, eventually just came north and north, and eventually would turn here and went to Flint. Mm-hmm. And eventually to Bay City. So it was possible that you could get on basically a streetcar here,
right,
and go to downtown Detroit, Flint, Bay City, and because you got to remember like around 1900, this was up north.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
This was like a recreation center, like Lake Orion had the carnival on the lake and all that.
Right.
People came up here in the summertime to
Sure.
To get away from the city.
Mm-hmm.
That disappeared around 1930, as most interurbans did because of the automobile and roads. So the Grand Trunk Western and the New York Central crossed over here on Depot Street.
Right.
And there was a interlocking tower, they called it. Mm-hmm. And since the two railroads shared a station, that was considered a union station.
Okay.
And they would both had, like I say, the passenger trains into the 60s, but the New York Central ran passenger trains until 1964, which for a branch line was very late. And they mostly did it with what they call a rail diesel car, or an RDC. And those were built by the Budd Company, and they were a self-powered passenger unit, streamlined. Mm-hmm. And they only built like 400 of them, and the New York Central ran 2 in Michigan from Detroit to Bay City, and 1 ran through here.
Wow.
So it was possible up until 1964, to go over here, you could get on a train again, and you could go downtown Detroit, you could go up to Bay City, and at first you go all the way to Mackinac City on it.
Oh, wow.
And that stopped here. But like I said, then they stopped, and then as traffic declined and highways were built, and actually this line for the New York Central to go to Bay City, this was a duplicate line. They had one that went over through Owasso and
over west of here.
Lance, yeah.
Okay.
And so they started just using that track. So this track deteriorated. Finally, in the mid 80s, 70s, 80s, Penn Central bankruptcies. They said track needs too much work. So they just came through and tore it all out.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that you had a rail car that went up to Bay City, and that you said it was
An RDC.
Yeah. Okay. What kind of engine propelled these things? Because it wasn't like the DUR with the electric lines
it was not overhead wire. Those were
Yeah.
overhead wired. No, these were just diesel engines.
Diesel. Okay.
Yep, yep. And they had two that they just on the truck, and they could just, if they needed quick repairs, they could just pull them out.
Oh, wow.
And switch it out. But the problem is, it was a great transportation invention. But by the time they started coming along with that and using it, the traffic was dying off on the branch lines.
Yeah.
So they never really caught on. Like I said, there was 400 of them built, and they passed them around the country and even Canada.
Oh, wow.
But there was one that ran here until 1964.
That's pretty amazing.
But I understand that one of the last runs before they canceled the passenger service, that broke down. So they ran the train with a regular locomotive and cars. So that would have been something to see out here.
For most of us who don't know a whole lot about early railroading, I do know the early ones were propelled by steam.
Steam, yes. Mm-hmm.
You see it on the old movies and stuff. When did the diesel power really take over from steam?
In the 50s.
In the 50s. Okay.
Actually, it should have been about 10 years sooner, but World War II came along and all development slowed down, and
Everything went to the war effort.
effort, right?
Okay.
And then after that, though, the steam engines were pretty much worn out.
Yeah,
They weren't
okay.
building anymore. In fact, one of the last ones built was actually it's in Owasso right now, being restored, the 1225.
Cool.
And that engine was built in 1941.
Okay. Let's take a break now, and we'll continue when we come back.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Connie from Connie's Kitchen here on OCTV, which is channel 99 on AT&T and 191 on Charter. Join us here on OCTV, join me in Connie's Kitchen, and learn to have fun in the kitchen, to relax and enjoy yourself. Come on, what'll it hurt? You'll have a good time.
Don't miss what's going on in your local government meetings. Watch Elgin Nichols and Dave Kenny on Minutes by Minute. Airs Monday through Friday, 7 a.m., 11:30 a.m., and 11:30 p.m., where they add a touch of humor to local politics.
Hi, I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Terry Stiles. Did you know that Charter Channel 191 and AT&T Channel 99 are the only television stations you can find all the events and news just for you?
Oxford News This Week is your news closer to home. Catch us right here, weekdays at noon, 6:30, and 11 p.m., and weekends at noon and 11 p.m. See you there.
Where we left off, Dave, we were talking about the transition from steam engines into diesels and the period when they came in. Didn't it have a lot changes along the railroad line? Because I'm just thinking about when we're talking that, okay, now if you've got steam engines, that means you got to power them somehow. So that means you got coal, you've got water for the boilers, and now we're changing to diesel, and that is just a big tank to pour the diesel in. Is that correct?
Well, they had, there was actually, just east of town here, there was a big steel tank. I believe it was 50,000 gallons over by the gravel pit, so they would water the engine there.
Okay.
But actually, when the train got from here to Caseville, the engine house was next to the bay, and they just pumped the water
Right out of Lake Huron.
right out of the bay.
Oh, wow, that's
and
cool.
There's actually a picture of them just pumping right from a creek.
Oh, boy.
Because they didn't want to maintain a lot up here. So when they finally went to 100% diesel, like any wood structure, wood water tower, they just knocked it down. Yep. Sometimes they would have concrete coaling towers. Like I think there's still one in Pontiac that they're just too much to take down, so they're still standing, but they don't use them. But yeah, they would definitely, that's why they wanted to go to diesel, because they didn't have to ship out coal, they didn't have to maintain the water, especially in the winter when they froze up. They had to either heat them or keep them moving.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, yeah. Especially on a day like today when it starts out below zero.
It would be a nightmare to run one of those things today.
When they were running steam, though, was it always coal, or did it start out with wood? Because I know they did a lot of wood
in the early
fired
mid-1800s, they were wood, but of course that's hard to keep up with. So no, they went to coal, and then some places fuel oil.
Oh, okay.
Oil burners.
Okay.
In fact, there's some in California that run on French fry oil. I think the
Oh, okay.
I think the Grand Canyon Railroad says that they run theirs on recycled oil.
Okay, okay, cooking oil, yeah, that's interesting. I see you've brought for us a time schedule for the Michigan Central Railroad, if you'd like to talk about that a bit.
Yes, this is the entire timetable of passenger trains for the Michigan Central Railroad from early 1900s. And it goes all the way from Chicago, Toronto, Buffalo, and if you'll notice, I kind of blew this up a little bit. Right here, almost in the middle, is Oxford. So you could almost say that Oxford was the geographic center of the Michigan Central Railroad.
That's their entire rail line for Michigan Central.
At that time, yes, but before it merged with New York Central.
Okay, and they called it the Niagara Falls route.
Well, that was for the furthest between like Buffalo and Chicago.
Okay.
This was all branch line territory.
Branch lines off of their main trunk then.
But this went up to Mackinac City, all the way up north, Bay City, Saginaw. Covered quite a bit of territory.
Yeah, I imagine it did. And was this line used for the lumbering? I'm thinking back to when we produced a lot of lumber here in Michigan.
Most of the lines in this region started out as logging roads, yes.
Okay.
Lumber roads.
Yeah. That's very interesting. It's the, I was trying to get a good look at it here, but what cities did it go through? Or basically parts of the country, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, like I say, here we have Chicago, and this gets into Ohio, then there's Toronto.
So it went over into Canada, okay.
Yeah, London, and this was Detroit and Bay City division ran out here. There was a Saginaw division, like I say, through like Owasso.
Okay.
And then you had north of Bay City was the Mackinac division.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But this would have been a time when they were running a lot of passenger trains.
A whole bunch of trains, yeah.
Like the Grand Trunk at first from Caseville, they ran 4 a day through here.
Wow.
To Caseville and back.
4 a day, and then you think about all of the trains that came out of the gravel pits.
Oh, yeah.
This had to be pretty busy railroad.
Well, yes, that's what I say. For a small town, there was, I would imagine half the city worked somehow for the railroad.
Railroads.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's great. That's very interesting. And you say this is from the early 1900s?
I believe so, yes. I'm looking for a date, but I don't see one, but just being called Michigan Central because they merged with New York Central in 1913.
Oh, okay, so that would be early, real early.
Must have been early 1900s, yes.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. And we had mentioned before that David put out a book, and I would like for him to show us a little bit about his book and maybe talk about some of the photos that are in it.
Okay, this is a collection of photos from the museum here, and I started out with, well, here's the like a map, and it shows where the lines crossed, and that would have been just over here, still called Depot Street, so
right.
It angles off over there, so that was over in that area there.
And like we said before, that map shows that there were 3 lines that went through Oxford here.
And this is some of the early interurban line. Now these guys are repairing the overhead wire. Now these were electric, ran
Yep.
right down the middle of the street here. And now this is an interesting one. This is a tunnel of the interurban under the Grand Trunk line,
Okay.
because the steam roads, for the most part, didn't like interurbans. They didn't want to cross their tracks.
Right.
So the interurbans either had to tunnel under or build a bridge over.
Gotcha.
And this one, they built a tunnel under it, and assuming that would be around M24 up here somewhere.
Well, that's on Lauk Street, so that would be right over here. That's not, yeah. And there is no evidence of it being there today. It's
None,
completely
no.
gone. We also have a photo of when this building was being built as a brick structure. They were putting a turnaround in right over here where Burdick Street is for the DUR. So that's kind of a timeline of the history of this building and the history of the DUR.
Okay.
We'll take a look at that a little bit later. But,
And here's an aerial shot of the station over here where the two lines cross. And then this, of course, are pictures of the station itself.
and that, you say, was a Union station because two railroads used it.
Anytime railroad shared a station, they're considered a union.
A Union
Yes.
station, okay.
And then another shot of the tower, and the tower operator is giving the trainmen orders here. They used to write them on just on a piece of paper and hand them up to them, and told them where they had to stop or keep going. And this engine here, you can see, that's sitting over here, just east of town a little bit.
Okay.
And they would just park it there, probably while they were going to lunch or something. And then there's a couple of shots of diesel engines in later years, and this is all around where the Meyer store is now.
Okay. Okay, so that's out where the gravel pit American Ag
That would have
was.
been the gravel pit there, yeah. And this would be a shot of, as we talked about, the RDC, and it paused here. Well, it went through while this freight train would wait for it. Passenger trains always had priority.
Oh, passengers had priority over freight, okay.
Yes. And then this one, not a real great shot, but it's Thomas.
Yes.
Just north of town, a few miles. They actually had a little yard there and everything. It was a regular community, but this depot has been moved about 3 miles up the road into private residence now.
Yes. Yeah, we talked about the railroad depot and people that manned it back when the beginning, when the railroad first went through.
And this is available.
Yeah, we have it here in the museum, and why don't we take a break, Dave, and we'll take a look at some of the old artifacts that we have on display here in the museum.
Sounds good.
Canine Stray Rescue is Oxford's own local dog rescue. Each year they take in hundreds of dogs and bring them into suitable homes. A certified nonprofit organization, Canine Dog Rescue strives to give pound dogs a new leash on life. To donate, adopt, or even volunteer, call them at 248-628-0435 or go to their website, dogsaver.org, and click on the Canine Stray Rescue League link.
Yeah, we've got a few things down here from the railroads, early days. One of the earliest photos I think that we have or anything is from the Bailey Lake gravel pit, which of course is over north of where Myers is today. And you can see an early steam engine that they loaded up the cars, and there's again a steam powered
yes.
excavator that they would load up the cars with. And even before that they used horses, so that was part of the very early days of our gravel industry.
Yes.
Back here on this wall we have a sign from the New York Central Railroad. It's kind of cool, it's a big thing, and it's hard for us to display in here, but it is the original sign for their freight depot.
Well, it's a good thing you saved that, yes.
Yeah, we've been able to pick up a few things that were scheduled for demolition and
Oh, no, that's
able
good.
to preserve them.
You could get a lot of money for that.
Yeah. We've got some more things back here against the wall I'd like to show you. Okay, Dave, we got a few things here in the corner.
Oh, yeah.
This was a bench that sat in the northwest quadrant right here behind where the museum is now. And this was for people that were waiting to ride on the DUR. Excuse me. And we have some more things up on the wall. We have a safety bulletin board that was from the Michigan Central Railroad, and it was located near Broadway Street in Lake Orion.
Okay.
We also have a shovel. Here, I don't think it was a coal shovel. I don't know what they used it for. But it was the Michigan Central Railroad.
Oh, yes.
You can see where they stamped
They stamped it there, yeah.
the D handle there, and it's also stamped here on the shovel head itself.
Okay, and I see you have a scale from the Railway Express office.
Yeah, that's from the Railway Express office, and I don't know what they would have used that for. I don't know if they charged
Small
by the
packages.
pound.
Right, same as the post office or UPS today.
Okay. And also we've got a very interesting strong box here, and again this is from the Railway Express Company, and they used to transport their valuables with it. Big lock, big key, of course you could put money bags in it or valuable documents or whatever, and that would keep it safe while it was on the train traveling. If you want, why don't you just pull that out and we'll get a better look at it.
All right, you want to get a better look at it over here? Okay. I think we'll just leave that where it is.
Yeah, it's very heavy, as you can
That
see.
is
It's
solid.
solid steel.
Yeah, see, it
And,
says 1913 on the side.
Yeah. And of course, that's the thing that the bank robbers were always after. If you think about the old Western TV movies that they have on now, where they always got on the train to grab the strong box. Them guys were mighty hefty if they were able to pick that up.
If they could get
throw it
that
to
one,
a guy
they
on the
were-
horse, you know. So yeah, that's what they transported money and, like I say, valuable documents in. There's rumors that there's a bunch of these down at the bottom of Stony Lake.
Wow.
What I hear around town is any bank robberies that went on or anything like that, the old safes or strong boxes, they would try to open them up and take out whatever was in them, and they would haul them out on the ice at night, you know, on Stony Lake, and when the ice melted, away they went. So that's some of the items that we have here from the early railroads.
Oh, very good, very good.
We've got some photos back here we'll take a look at of the railroads that worked in the gravel pits. So let's go back and we can kind of take a quick peek at them. Yeah, we've got some photos here, Dave. And we had talked so much about the importance of the railroads in the gravel industry. This was their main silo for American ag, and this is, of course, where Meyer is today, and the new high school's back here. That was their main line, and you can see all the rail cars lined up.
And one interesting part is you can see in here this was an ex-interurban freight locomotive that they motorized.
Oh, this is interesting, yeah.
And you can see they had a pretty extensive, between the two gravel pits, pretty extensive operation just in there.
Yeah, that's just
And if you notice, M24 is not divided.
just a two-lane highway, that's
Two-lane
true.
Highway,
Yep.
1953. Wow.
Back here we have the aerial shot of the Oxford area, and you can kind of get a good idea of where the rail lines came through Oxford. Like here is 24. Well, you can see it was divided down here, and this photo was taken about 1960, we figure.
Oh, now it's divided back up here.
Yeah, and it got divided again once you got through town.
Yes.
So it's pretty much like it was, like it is today. But we've got one rail line here, and I'm assuming that this is the one that headed far east.
Yes, that would have been the Grand Trunk line.
Okay.
You can see it coming up through here. Yep.
Yeah, it's coming up from the south.
And then they crossed right over here. Yep.
Okay. And here's where the north-south branch went.
Yes.
And of course your DUR would have been right up the middle of 24. We've got a lot of photos of the DUR cars running right down the middle of Main Street.
Right.
It's got the electric wires overhead for it to follow. So that was pretty much we were like a central hub here of railroads.
That's what I'm saying, yes.
That's why Oxford really, really prospered.
Right.
Well, I think we've gone through just about, well, we've got a few photographs here that we found back here working in the gravel pit area. And here's an interesting car here. It's from the Eastern Railway. And I don't really recognize it, and I don't know a lot about it. So we're going to have to investigate that and see if it
Well,
even...
it's an electric freight motor.
Right.
And it would not be used in passenger service.
Okay.
And that's mostly for like switching operations, so that would have been, just
Used in rail yards. Okay.
used within the gravel pits themselves.
Okay. I'm just interesting that it's electric. Well, I think that will pretty much wrap up our show for this week, and we sure appreciate you coming on, Dave.
My pleasure, Ron.
And I would invite you all to come in to the museum. If you're interested in railroads, Dave's book is very interesting to look at. And we'll see you again next time.
This is OCTV, Oxford Community Television, serving Oxford and Addison Townships with the best in local programming. On Charter Channel 191, AT&T UVerse Channel 99, and our website, OCCTV.org. OCTV, we provide local programming that brings you closer to home.
Out for Friday night fish at the Oxford American Legion Hall. It's delicious.
We love the Legion. They have great fish and good family fun.
American Legion fish fry. It's awesome. And the drinks are good. The food is good. The service is awesome.
Thank you.